This is the College Investor Audio Show. We are truly honored that you are here joining us today as we talk about the Trump administration in the news for possibly defunding the CFPB by 2026. But first, just a reminder that anytime you hear something on the podcast, you can always dive deeper into the topic. There's an article associated with every single podcast at thecollegeinvestor.com. You can also ask questions, get to know us, because we'd love to help you along in your journey any way we can. Just search for the words The College Investor, and you'll find us all over social media. All right, so the Trump administration has escalated its campaign to defund the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, which sets in motion what could be its effective closure within a year. In a court filing, which you can actually look at, the PDF file we have inside the article on our website, this week, the administration said the CFPB cannot seek additional money from the Federal Reserve, its usual source of operating funds. Fire up the printers! So the Bureau said it has enough reserves to continue through December, but it anticipates exhausting its currently available funds in early 2026. Maybe it'll be a nonprofit organization. You can make a donation. Anyway, without congressional action, that timeline would mark the end of the CFPB's ability to function. The Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel issued the legal opinion underpinning the decision. So the OLC argued that under the Dodd-Frank Act, the CFPB can only receive funds from the combined earnings of the Federal Reserve System. And it's not earning anything because the Fed has posted losses since 2022 of around $80 billion a year. The administration contends there are no earnings to transfer over to fund the CFPB. The Federal Reserve currently lacks combined earnings from which the CFPB can draw from. That's a quote from the opinion. The Federal Reserve has no profits. It cannot transfer money to the CFPB. That interpretation redefines, quote, combined earnings to mean net profits rather than total income, a reading that may be up to interpretation here. So the Supreme Court upheld the CFPB's funding structure as constitutional in 2024 without adopting that definition. What happens next is yet to be seen. So, there is an ongoing campaign to weaken the CFPB. The latest move extends a years-long Republican effort to dismantle the CFPB, which was established in 2010 as part of the Dodd-Frank financial reform law following the 2008 crisis. The agency was designed to be insulated from congressional appropriations so it could regulate banks, credit card companies, and lenders without political interference. There has been a driving force to shut this down. In April, the Trump administration pushed to lay off 90% of the CFPB staff. A federal judge quickly blocked that order, and during negotiations for the One Big Beautiful Bill, the House sought to cut funding for the CFPB, but that was blocked in the Senate. Here's the legal impact in all of this. The Justice Department's interpretation introduces new uncertainty for both the agency and the financial industry, so the argument could have far-reaching consequences. If, quote, combined earnings must mean profit, the same logic could apply to other statutory transfers to Federal Reserve the Federal Reserve makes, potentially undermining the central bank's own operations. If you're a Hamilton guy, you're like, oh no, but if you're a Jefferson guy, you're like, oh yeah. And so the conflict continues. No doubt the specific move is an attempt to cripple the CFPB after the Supreme Court closed off other constitutional challenges, but it actually could have a larger impact here. The administration's position also puts it at odds with some conservative officials. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who is a Republican, has previously rejected the idea that the CFPB can only be funded through Fed profits, calling the argument inconsistent with the text of Dodd-Frank. It seems like you would need to reverse Dodd-Frank in order to make anything happen. Anyway, let's take a look at how that would impact you and me. The consumer impact and the future of financial oversight. If the CFPB runs out of money, the effects would ripple across consumer finance. The agency oversees federal laws governing credit cards, mortgages, payday loans, student loans, etc., markets totaling roughly $18 trillion in consumer debt. It also handles hundreds of thousands of complaints each year from borrowers and consumers alleging deceptive or abusive practices. Consumer advocates warn that closing the CFPB would leave a major gap in enforcement just as household debt levels and loan delinquencies are rising. Credit card, auto, and student loan delinquencies are all near or above post-recession highs. Without the Bureau's oversight, they argue, lenders could face fewer consequences for predatory behavior or data privacy violations. Just for the sake of not making this a left or right issue, there are arguments that go the other way and say we don't need government oversight because we can do other things. Anyway, but for now, the CFPB remains operational, just kind of inactive. Much of its enforcement work has slowed, and pending legal cases may be in jeopardy if courts determine the agency lacks valid funding authority. Congress could, in theory, appropriate funds directly to the CFPB to keep it up and running. But given long-standing Republican opposition, such a move is considered unlikely. So that means the agency's future likely rests on how the courts interpret the OLC opinion and whether they view the administration's new reading of combined earnings as legally defensible. Might also help if we had really good, strong definitions for words, and they were clear. That is our show for today. If you want to find out more, you want to dive in deeper to this topic and all the things that we talk about on the podcast, check us out at thecollegeinvestor.com. You can also follow us, like us, and all the things on social media. Just search for the words, The College Investor, and you'll find us. We'd love to get to know you and help you along. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and we will talk to you again real soon.